My guest today is Nohtal Partansky, founder and CEO of Sorting Robotics.
Sorting Robotics, they're a provider of automated sorting solutions that are highly flexible and customizable, allowing for seamless integration with existing systems. Nohtal, thanks for being with us at the Talking Hedge.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
How's life?
Things are good, man. It's a sunny day in Seattle, so that's a lot better than the 63 degrees I had yesterday.
Oh,
um,
yeah. I mean, I'm in
let's jump
LA
into
and
automation, though, because I've been talking about automation in the Seattle scene for cannabis, God, almost like 10 years, whatever, with cannabis pre-rolls and everything else. And especially right now with the way things are going, it looks like automation's only going to kind of go on a lot faster. I think probably COVID sped up a lot of things. Still don't have delivery in Washington State, but I do know that people are automating. So we're going to jump around a little bit. We'll start with your company's technology. So Sorting Robotics, how do you guys enable businesses to scale, grow, and what are those advantages over manual labor?
yeah. So we offer two products at the moment. One of them is a pre-roll infusion system. So it is a way to dose your pre-rolls with cannabis concentrate by injecting them down the center. And we offered that one starting in 2021. And then last year we launched our next product, which is a high efficiency vape cart filling system. Does like 30,000 cartridges with like a plus or minus 0.5% tolerance. So extremely, tolerant, extremely tight, extremely high velocity. Um, and so those are the main ones that we offer now. In terms of the value to the customer, when it comes on the infusion side, there's a kind of plethora of ways that you can infuse pre-rolls. All of them are like very manually labor intensive, or they're just extremely inconsistent. And so we address both those problems by being like a dosing with some tolerance and being able to do 5 times, 10 times as many infusions of pre-rolls as you'd be able to do by hand. So it's pretty significant in terms of what the cost of goods look like for a customer. Like it's like a 8x change in the manual labor.
Mhm.
It's significant. And on the vape cartridge side, a lot of the savings are just due to the reduced spillage because of how accurate the machine is. So there are not many people in the world that fill 30,000 cartridges a day. That's like a small handful. So for those, it's great for those people. But for most that use the machine, they see significant advantage in just the precision and depending on where you are in the country, what market you're in, it could mean you're either saving 20 cents a cartridge in spillage costs, or you're saving like $1 in spillage costs per cartridge. And that can be, 5-10% of the over cost of goods. So it's it's significant when you're looking at the price of raw material.
I've seen a lot of people do it with syringes on a real small scale, all
hmm
the way up to these little boxes that'll do. Um, I don't even know how many, and they're probably maybe close to 100 at a time. Um, what are you kind of seeing people using them for? Are there use cases when people are saying, "Oh, I have, um, you know, distillate or full spectrum or where live resin or rosin, what's the demand right now for automation on that vape cart, because it is very convenient on for traveling, for example. A lot of friends of mine still in Washington, they'll roll around with a joint. I won't. My lawyer says only break one law at a time, so I try to stick to that. But in other places that are more conservative, Arizona, whatever, they're tending to see more vape than pre-rolls. And so I would imagine you're selling more. So I guess two-part question: where are you selling the most, and what are they using them for?
On the vape cart side,
Yeah.
um, on the vape cart side, I mean, it looks like most of the spread of the products are pretty even. And I think that's just because of like how our distribution works. How like we actually partner with cartridge manufacturers, and we like kind of sell the machine as a like value add for the cartridge manufacturer. So they're giving it to like people that are doing high volume, and so we're just getting to like the high volume producers in the different markets. So we're pretty spread out across the United States. Like we got a couple in Canada, a couple in California, a couple in Washington, a few on the East Coast, a few in the Midwest, and so there's not really any like major focus. But in terms of like the types of things that they're filling, uh, I mean, obviously distillate is a massive part of that market still. We see a lot of people moving towards live resin and liquid diamonds. That's like a big thing, which is basically just uh, like pure distillate, right? It's just no terpenes, no cannabinoids, just liquid diamonds and like maybe a little bit of botanical terps. We see a lot of people doing that. There's a couple customers in California that have liquid diamond lines, and like that's one thing that our machine's really good at because it has like very strong temperature sensitivity, and so because we control the temperature so much, we can do like very difficult things to move like liquid diamonds. Like I don't know if you've ever like seen like the raw form of liquid diamond, but it's
I
so
have in Washington, but I know people in the East Coast who have no idea what diamonds are. So
oh
I hate using the analogy of a crack rock. So I guess a giant thing of like salt or whatever is what it kind of looks like.
yeah, like I mean it's basically just a THCA crystal that they grow, kind of like if you were ever in like sixth grade science class and you like put the little sugar crystals and they like grew. It's like that, but for THCA. Um, and uh, and then they melt that down and it just turns into a rock, right? So it's very temperature sensitive. And I see a lot of people doing that. Like, yeah, I guess you're right. I don't see a lot of people doing the liquid diamond stuff on the East Coast. It's more of like a West Coast thing. The live resin is, the whole country. Like everyone's moving towards live resin.
Yeah, Canada really picked that up. I saw 400% increases in 2018 or 2019.
Oh,
And
okay.
there's a lot of perception that it's, I think, cleaner or better. I mean, distillate has a reputation over here as hot dog water.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
people just don't, they're not interested in it. But so let's jump into hot dog water because I would imagine a lot of people are trying to inject that into their pre-rolls.
Hmm.
What are you seeing on that side? How were you able to develop that? Because I know there's a lot of issues with that rod going in, staying in straight, not bending, and excreting enough concentrate and staying um, in compliance, right? There, you can't have too much, you can't have too little. Everything needs to be accounted for. So, how did you throw all those things together and make a machine that does that kind of consistently?
Yeah, so we had I actually like helped build a co-packing company in Oakland back in 2020 and helped run it for a few years until we sold it at the end of last year. And so that was a very interesting process, right? Because I kind of like learned what it was like to be on the manufacturing plant touching side. And that's where we put the machine. And so we had kind of like free reign access to a bunch of concentrate material because we used the prototype for our like current customers because they wanted to infuse their joints. And so we did a lot of iteration. I mean, it took like 6 months to get the first prototype of something that could inject into joints in like a relatively consistent basis, and then it took maybe another 6 months to get a product that we could actually sell. And yeah, basically we figured out that just doing distillate was a very small part of what people actually wanted to infuse their pre-rolls with. Um, and even now, when we've sold, a bunch of machines all over the country and Canada, um, I would say only half of the customers are infusing with distillate, which you would probably assume it would be more because the distillate market is so much more of a market share on the vape side. Most people are doing live resin, and I would say like a very large and fast growing portion of it are doing rosin. And rosin has become like the thing that people want to go after, and not just decarb rosin, but like non-decarb rosin, like just straight up melted down stuff because everyone's trying to get like that donut blunt, that hash hole, um, That's what I see a lot of people trending towards. And usually they'll do the hot dog water, the kind of like blueberry, like banana, whatever flavor for their low tier, and then they'll do their mid tier live resin, and they'll do their high tier rosin.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about customization? Like you mentioned hash. So there's a new product up in Canada, these hash strips you can throw in your joint if you're hand rolling it yourself. What about customization or unique things, trends you mentioned, that you can do customized solutions for? Are people asking for kief or hash in their pre-rolls, and what are you kind of doing about that customization?
I mean, we've had a few people ask about like automation for the keef roll, like the Jeter style or the tarantula style, which is what I guess it was called 3 years ago before Jeters made a big splash. Um, I mean, we don't actually develop anything to do the keef rolled on the outside. Mostly that's just because I don't think that's a very scalable process. It's very it's very difficult to measure when you're doing stuff like that. Um, and it's also very messy, and I don't see a good way to make it not as wasteful. And so we just don't even develop any automation to do the keef rolling on the outside. And I know a few of the like I mean there's a handful of other automation companies in the space. And no one wants to do that because it's just like not a good it's just not a good manufacturing process. And I mean it's cool and it's trendy, right? Um, but I don't see that lasting in the long term, especially as we get real regulation like FDA regulation. Like spraying, your pile of ground material with a bunch of distillate and then like letting it sit overnight is not like the most hygienic way in the world of something that's going to be an inhalable, right? Like what happens if like a fly jumps on it or or it gets contaminated with whatever's in the air. I just like don't see that happening, right? Like those things are not um yeah, they're not future proof.
Mhm. It'd be nice too to have like a bore, that you could drill out or build around, pull that plug out, and then insert that with some hash or keef or whatever. But I'm
Hmm.
sure you guys will figure that eventually.
Yeah.
Jack's pre-rolls, they want to know about packaging for tubes and tins. So a lot of people who package pre-rolls differently, singles or multiples in different varieties of jars, tins, tubes, and otherwise. What's the solution for that being how popular pre-rolls are? Are you guys working on that? Do you have any suggestions? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, so that's actually something we're working on. Um, we built a prototype for this back in the co-packing company a couple years ago. Basically, just like a robotic arm that we. Oh, that's cool. All the comments are like popping up on the bottom. Um, Basically, we built like a robotic arm that like picks up the jars and puts them into boxes, or picks up the like kind of boxed pieces of product and like puts them into master cases, kind of just like a palletizer almost, right? With some computer vision to close the loop and make sure that things are done correctly. And so we're working on that now, specifically for pre-rolls, because right, we sell these infused pre-roll machines, and these are at the end of the line, whether you're using a knockbox or you have another automated machine to make the pre-rolls. And so now our customers are asking like, okay, cool. So I've infused the pre-rolls. Now help me get it into the tube or into the tin, kind of like what this guy's asking. And yeah, so now we're kind of retooling our automated system to do that final packaging, and we're working with a few clients right now to baseline, and we're gonna officially launch it in Q4 of this year.
Any issues? I mean, things you mentioned, things that you don't necessarily want to touch because rolling, I've seen a lot of manufacturers, they'll kind of spray the distillate on the outside and roll keef, but like you mentioned, the quality control, consistency, um, in tracking all of that is basically impossible. It's kind of a mess. What are some of the other challenges that you guys have seen? Anything else you guys have decided to stay away from, and anything else that you guys have tackled?
Um, let's see. One thing that we haven't really we thought about doing this, and then we just actually kind of abandoned it, which was the packaging of concentrates. Um, And we get a lot of people that ask that, but the concentrate market is like so small. Like dabs, like these little dab jars, and it's so highly variable. So that's something that we've really thought about, and we've even built, kind of mock-ups and stuff like that, to make this concentrate packaging system. But like there's too many weird trends in like the dab world. Um, you can like build a system that packages shatter, but that same system can't really package like crumble or batter. And then you have like the terps and liquid diamonds. And I've seen one system from a competitor that does like terps and diamonds, and like that's the only thing that that thing can do. And my company's not really built around doing, very small parts of the system for like only one SKU. Like our like infusion machine, it can do, little baby half-gram joints, or it can do big rosin blunts, right? Like it has a very wide range. If it's infused, like it can basically do it. But I don't really want to build a machine that can like only do terps and diamonds and like that's it, because it's not a very large value. And so finding a general application for that very large um, SKU mix for a very small market, it's just it doesn't make a lot of good business sense, unless there's like a very significant technology advancement that allows us to do all of those SKUs with one, with one bullet. So that's something that we've kind of stayed away from after looking through it and just determining it's just like not the best use of time. Like there's like the packaging, like that's high value, You can have one robot and it'll package pre-rolls and it'll also package vapes, which are two things that we do, right? So kind of makes
I'm
more sense.
hearing from you that dabs are kind of a disappointing market.
A little bit, because they're labor intensive, but they're just so small and it's so difficult to automate. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that market's ever gonna like really grow. I think the pre-roll market is probably gonna be 50% of the market in 3 years.
I'm a broken record at the dispensary. Every week I go in there and I ask them the same thing. What's the number one product you see hit the register? And what's your favorite product right now? And
Yeah,
it's 99% of the time flour.
really.
Like none
Yeah,
of them go after concentrate. And I ask them why, and I figure price is going to be the answer, and it's not. It's the effect. They like the full effect of flour.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, I want to jump back to how you got into the industry because
Hmm.
the story I have is that you worked for NASA and
Yeah.
that you were designing some stuff to create oxygen on Mars. And in my head, you were sitting there smoking a blunt with Elon Musk, and you were like, "Oh, we should automate some cannabis stuff. This would be great." How did that actually happen, though?
So I definitely did not smoke weed when I was at NASA, for the record. Uh, yeah, and I was there for like 4 years, so I took a little break. But I was at NASA for 4 years. I'm in LA right now, so I used to live in Pasadena at NASA JPL. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory was really cool. I was one of the main engineers and like the cognizant engineer, kind of like a lead for a project called Moxie, which is a device that's currently producing oxygen on the surface of Mars. And I worked on that for a few years, and then after that was finished, and I got like an award for like outstanding achievement at NASA. I like, quit like a month later, and I started this company, but I didn't actually start building for cannabis. Initially, we actually built a device called the Roca sorter, which was a system that sorted Magic the Gathering cards, and like other trading cards like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, for the trading card market to like give the secondary market a way to sift through a bunch of cards and have online resellers make their life a little easier. I like was really into that game when I was in college. I like played professionally and was like super into it, and I had a few other friends who knew about that market. So we developed this like cool sorting mechanism, which is where sorting robotics comes from. Um, and then we noticed that the trading card Magic the Gathering market is very small, and it was giving us enough money to kind of like live, yeah, like a nice little lifestyle business. But it was our dream to always like make a very large robotics company, like something that is deeply valuable. And then we got into a thing called Y Combinator, which is like a startup accelerator program, and we used the networking that that environment provided us to find a bigger market. And we spent like 4 months trying to find uh, an avenue that we could apply our skill set to. And after a lot of talking to people and figuring things out, we eventually kind of landed in cannabis because this was back in 2019 when we made this pivot. And in 2019, and even now, right, there was like basically no one really approaching the industry with like a sophisticated perspective, right? There was a few kind of companies that were jerry rigging medical devices and saying like, oh, this will work for cannabis. But cannabis is such a finicky material. It's very unique. It's not like anything else, right? Like almonds are a lot like flour when you crush it up, right? But like when you crush up cannabis, it's not like almonds or flour, right? It's like weird. And then when you extract it, it's also weird. It's not like lavender oil or canola oil. It's like this weird thing that can turn solid. Um, so those companies never really, focused on the problem. And so we liked weed, right? I was smoking weed again now that I left JPL, and then yeah, we started partnering with some people in the space. And then in 2020, I took a few months off and helped start this co-packing company. And I'm very adamant of the idea of like know your customer by being your customer. And so I basically became what is now my customer, like a cannabis manufacturer. And like I don't know, for 9 months I was slinging pounds up in Oakland and like and doing co-packing from bucking the flower, trimming. I mean, not myself, obviously. Like I initially did it, and then that company got to like 50 people, and we were servicing a bunch of companies in the Bay Area. And and then yeah, we wound that company down at the end of last year and just started focusing on the robotic side of things.
I love that story of pivoting to stay relevant in the cannabis industry. A lot of times people will hit a wall or something where there's just a small market. They don't know how to figure it out, and they just kind of end up either failing. But there are some success stories on being able to pivot to stay relevant. Quick story. I launched an app using artificial intelligence to kind of alert people when to buy and sell crypto and stocks. And so hitting the retail as soon as the market took a dive when Russia invaded Ukraine. It was worst timing to launch ever. Should have launched during the lockdowns. And so pivoting to business has proven to be a lot better. So even though you've got a good idea, sometimes it's the wrong time, wrong market, wrong whatever. Just a little bit of persistence, and figuring out through Y Combinator or whoever, wherever, however, figuring out how to make that work. Have you been able to use that technology you developed at NASA on Mars, smoking a blunt with Elon Musk? I'm totally running with that story, by the way.
All right, all right.
How or do you think it's possible to transition that for like lounges? Because a lot of lounges the smoke lounges are requiring a massive turnover in airflow, which is stupid because you're not going to hook up a 747 jet engine in order to get the cycles down to like 30 times a minute or something dumb. How else do you do it? There's hypochlorous acid, or there's UV, or there's old school filtration. What about your technology?
My tech was a solid oxide electrolysis. So it is definitely not useful for that application. So electrolysis is like the process of like breaking things apart. And what my device did was it ingested the CO2, the carbon dioxide from the Martian atmosphere, and it split it apart into O2 and carbon monoxide. So that wouldn't be incredibly useful in a smoke lounge, and it would probably gunk up pretty quick. But uh, but it's good on Mars. Yeah,
What about like talking about AI?
yeah.
How do you feel that ChatGPT or any of these artificial intelligence plugins can change the game? Because I've seen crazy stuff come out of 3D printers for like exhaust. So they've been able to develop all kinds of things to improve airflow and exhaust and
Mhm.
all of these other things where the code that was developed was unique and the 3D printing was unique, and humans wouldn't have been able to do either of those or something. I don't know. I'm out of my league here. But what have you seen in terms of the ability for ChatGPT to kind of correlate into the cannabis space?
I mean, so ChatGPT specifically, I mean, fuck everything. Oh, can I cuss on this? I don't know. Is
You
that
can say
like
whatever you want. Yeah.
okay? Everything. Like, I mean, we use ChatGPT all the time, for our own internal processes here. Um, and I would say like the first thing that comes to mind for a cannabis company is on like the customer support. So like our customer support is a little bit more white glove because we're dealing with businesses and stuff like that, and so they need to like know that someone's going to help them, not like a random bot. Um, but I would say like these brands, a lot of them could use ChatGPT as a way to engage with their customers, because it'll respond at like a low level very naturally. It's not gonna say crazy stuff or like lead you down like a very clear like decision question tree, right? It will be able to have like natural language conversations with their customers. And I think it's an extremely underutilized tool for engagement. And like you, me, I mean, I think everyone in the industry really knows that like brand loyalty is pretty low these days. For whether it be like a SKU in like beverage or like edible or whatever, like a lot of things come down to price and THC percentage, right? Um, so I think it's difficult to advertise, but it's not difficult to engage, right? And if you can use ChatGPT as an engagement tool at like scale, we're talking like you can engage with tens of thousands of people at one time. That's like not something that anyone's ever thought of doing, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. What are you gonna do? Hire a bunch of people in the Philippines to talk with all your customers? Like it doesn't make any
People
sense.
should. They should be using Puerto Rico, as a matter of fact, because
Oh
of
yeah,
Act 60 and use that as a bilingual call center. But if they can't afford that, now ChatGPT can do that for practically free. We set up
exactly.
through our own, AI company, investment company to do just that. So it's responding to people on Twitter, and we're setting it up for a chat, like a chat bot. So bilingual
Mhm.
chat bot and everything else. Plus, it's just an ideation, like what complements, what products should I have? Doing a competitive analysis. I mean, there's so many of these tools out now. I feel like it's like the internet of 1992, like just at the infancy, and it's just getting better.
Yeah, I see. That's definitely going to be very interesting. AI as a whole has a lot of applications in the manufacturing space. Like, so I'm pretty sensitive to that. Like our first couple products were very computer vision based. Like we were doing sortation of a wholesale flower, like biomass and trim, and so we were scanning like conveyor systems um, of biomass and trying to quantify what was on it and separate it out.
Hmm.
But quality control too, right? That's a big thing, and it's a big thing when it comes to brands. It's a big thing when it comes to different markets, like different states. Like you need to have that quality control. And one guy trained in Humboldt is not going to be doing the same QC as one guy in Oklahoma. But
Hmm.
if you have a little robotic arm that's like putting it in front of a camera and showing it, that's going to be the same protocol on each. So that and computer vision, it's called computer vision, but it is machine learning, and that's one avenue of artificial intelligence. So yeah, that's something that is like deeply underutilized. Like
And it's
it's
come
very
a
difficult.
long ways in 10 years. People were using Arduino and Python and coming up with these things. It's actually how
Oh
I
yeah,
got into the industry. Is I grabbed some guys at Amazon and said, look, I have a grow from my friend who's got MS and I need to make this better. So there's a gal who's got the same question that I've got. It's how come it has the fully automated grow and systems haven't gotten any better? 10 years ago, I got in the industry for the same situation. So the question is what about start to finish automation? growing cannabis with sensors in the soil. There's ways to look at it. If the leaf starts to taco, it should know if it's the environment, like too much fan, or if it's the soil. So all of these components, everything together, should be integrated, aggregated, and then decided on using machine learning and artificial intelligence. But it's not there. So the Growtronics system I paid way too much for back in the day is still not working properly. And there's all of these, kind of components and even systems that say they're doing it, but the true solution I don't think is there yet, and I want to know why.
I mean, I think a big thing is that one, for you to develop something like that, it's going to cost you 10 mil plus in raw materials, right? Like testing is the bread and butter of building a system like that. And if you're just going to burn through $10 million in like flour, it's like it's very difficult to swallow that pill, right? Um, so so let's say you have infinite money, right? Which no one really does, especially at this time in the industry. Let's say you have infinite money. Um, Having a closed loop, I guess that you could call that a closed loop growing system, where like you got seeds, and then at the end you have packaged goods, and it's all in like a massive, factory that like moves stuff around. Um, the most important caveat with today's automation, even with like AI tools and stuff like that, is that the material cannabis is highly variable, right? Highly variable. Some strains you cure for 2 weeks. Some strains you cure for 5 days. Some strains, when they get extracted, they'll have a bunch of lipids inside of them. Some strains, they want to be extracted dry. Like there's so many variables in how the yielding of the plant happens and how you process the plant after that. And that even if you do have artificial intelligence, you have to train it on something, right? And if there's not enough data to train your AI model, like GPT-4 has a trillion data points, right? No one's going to run a trillion grows or like even 5 grows to get that wide range to have a closed form system. So is it possible? Sure. I'm sure today, if you spent like 10 million bucks, you could make an end to end, but you'd make it for one strain. That's it. And then the moment you change anything, it's like you're starting all over again. Um, and it would probably still take you like 2 years to do it for that one strain because you need to know like how does that phenotype change for whatever environment I leave it in. Like maybe in the winter it's drier even though you're maintaining your humidity, but like there's more nitrogen in the air or something like that, and it changes the phenotype. So when it extracts, it doesn't, you don't leave it in there for 2 hours. You have to leave it in there for 2.5 hours because that sock isn't going to be fully like. There's all these things on that end to end. It's not almonds, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the benefit of machine learning. But that's
yeah,
also why it takes a long time, and people think, "Oh, I could just start a company now and compete against whatever." It's like there's a lot of learning involved,
yeah.
and um, you can't really remove that or replace that any other way than just time. But I did go and ask artificial intelligence via ChatGPT to give me some slogans or mottos for you over at Sorting Robotics, and here's what it came up with.
All right.
One of the slogans was robots are going to take over the world, but first they'll sort your cannabis.
Okay.
I
Okay.
thought that was kind of ominous, but also funny. Taking the high out of high performance, a little humor there.
Okay.
Um, our robots don't get high, but they do help you get higher yields.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And then the last one, our robots may not know the difference between indica and sativa, but they'll know how to sort them with ease.
Okay. And then we should just spell ease, like the delivery service.
Right.
So-
That's what Perfect. Well, we talked a lot today. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or at least let people know how they can get a hold of you?
yeah, if you guys want to have any more information on the Jico robot, our filling system, and then our future Mayweather packaging, um, I would say reach out to us on the website. There's a contact form, sortingrobotics.com. Also, if you go to Sorting Robotics Inc., we have an Instagram If you reach out any of those places, I'll be able to do it.
All right. And we'll have some information. His LinkedIn will be in the show notes as well. But I think with that, we're going to have to roll this one up. So I want to thank my guest, Nohtal Partansky, founder, CEO of Sorting Robotics. Thanks again for being on the Talking Hedge.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.